Tell us more about incorporating young entrepreneurs.
Well, incorporating young entrepreneurs, I started in 2006, a little bit after I graduated, about 4 years after I graduated in 2002. Before I just had a love for music, but being mentored, especially by yourself, I seen the great need of education. I was a high school dropout before I graduated at Harmony Community School, and one thing about music, the youth, they see what's on television with music and things like that, but it's education that's even in the music industry. So the guys that's like the Jay-Z's and the guys that's on that major type of level, these aren't people who just out of the blue was able to get $1 billion. These are people that are well educated. So that was my purpose for starting IYE.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had the pleasure of watching online because he had a series of workshops that took place last month, training and introducing these young people to entrepreneurship. And some of what I heard sitting down in one of the workshops was focused on really how to get a job and keep it. And I know he's doing some things centered around summer youth employment that'll be coming up. He'll be talking to you about that and how Keeping It Real Family Summit connects with that. And if you're interested in summer youth employment, which is always an issue here in our city, I invite you to come out on April the 1st, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more too. So in terms of the services that and what you've done so far with your program and the delivery of your program and the place of where you did it, go into more in terms of services of incorporated young entrepreneurs.
Well, at first my goal was to teach the principles of entrepreneurship, but then I had to realize I get this question asked all the time. Everyone asks, any business email you started, how much money did the bank give you? And a lot of people don't understand until you don't need the bank. That's the only time that the bank is gonna be able to offer you some money. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that came from really just me hustling and bustling, working a job or working 2 jobs, then reaching out to the community or other people and saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. How could you support me, and go from there? So currently right now the goal is to do workshops to get the youth jobs, to get income coming in. And once they get the income coming in, how that they can invest in themselves. In the month, last month when working with the youth, and I get this not even from the youth, even from the adults, I ask people, if you was to get your check, what would you purchase on? And they give me a long list of stuff that they're ready to buy, but they never ever give me the answer of, I'll invest in myself. That's never on the list. So that's first. If you find employment, what are you gonna do with your dollars? Are you gonna invest in yourself, or what you gonna do with your money? So the goal is to get the youth jobs. We used to have a program here called Rent-A-Kid, and Rent-A-Kid was an excellent program. Now that I'm learning about the nonprofit realm, a lot of times people are like, oh, nonprofit, you can get grants and you can get money, but it's still a struggle even in that realm to get funded. So and able to cut that out and really to be able to still get the youth employed, we're going to reach out to the community and do what the Rent-A-Kid program did, where the community can just call a telephone number, say, hey, I need these services done. I need my grass cut. I need my snow removed, wash some clothes, walk my dog. Some of the simple things that we take as adults for granted that we really don't want to do, that's things that the community could be doing to employ our youth. And I think that not only will give employment, but they're also going to cut down on our youth going to the judicial system also.
Right. I can recall my son did, your classmate there, he did Rent-A-Kid, and not only did I see he put a little change in his pocket, but I saw his character develop, so and his work ethic. You learn a lot through these summer youth programs, and actually the concept you're saying could even be year-round for a student on the weekend or after school for a few hours. So that's really, really key. So with your mission, how have you seen your mission come to fruition? I know you've been networking with the Cincinnati Regional Hamilton County Public Library. Tell us more about what you've been doing with them.
The library, the Cincinnati Library, I really have to commend them on what they're doing, especially at the downtown library, really at any library in a city, but at the downtown library, there's so many resources that you can be able to do. Even at a smaller, if you're a grassroots program, I mean, you can get the rooms for free anywhere in Cincinnati at a library to reserve it, but there's actually a teen section specifically for the teens where they can use the internet, do video games, or things that's catered to them. One part of the library, if you're into clothing, you can actually sew your clothes there. If you're into music, you can record at the public library. But if you're just trying to hold a program, you could reserve a room and get the room for free. So what better way to be in a learning type of condition and right there in the library where you can do everything you're trying to do.
Yes, sir. And I was pretty impressed because I had visited that wing up on the second floor, a whole wing dedicated to youth. And then when I came to your program up there, you know, the room was packed, a nice sized room, and the youth came out and were interested. And I noticed that you had a young banker, man who was a banker who was explaining the banking system to him. Why did you invite such a person to present to the youth?
I think sometimes the youth, they hear from their parents, they hear from their elders, from their teachers, but sometimes to kind of grasp like, oh my God, I heard this before. When you hear from somebody that's closer to your age, they kind of gravitate to that more, and that's really what we're trying to focus on April the 1st, and really when we do more events. My goal is to do big events where at least we can bring in 1,000 people every 3 months, and give a platform for the youth to speak. A lot of times we in a city, Cincinnati, we talk about transportation, we need jobs, or the streetcars, or so many different things. The youth have actually not only a voice, but sometimes they have some solutions. Right. And a good thing about it, they think outside of the box, and they're really creative. So having them be able to see someone who has some knowledge about finances that's closer to their age, sometimes they kind of gravitate to that.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk more. Anything else you want to say about your mission with IYE, or your vision at this time?
Just really simply, I want to be able to, I grew up in the neighborhood of Avondale. I want to get a condemned building in the Avondale community. A lot of times people look at the African American community as a condemned people. So I want the community to come in, fix up the house, and then we have different functions going on in the house catered toward entrepreneurship. Just basically a boys and girls club. Focus on entrepreneurship, but where the youth can actually come in to be able to make them some finances.
Okay, so that's leading right into my next question. How can and what do you do to combat the out of control crime and violence in the inner city communities? And that what you said leading us right into that. So can you go more into that?
Yeah, I made a challenge to 2020. And to 800 Broadway. I want to thank the people that's over the division for meeting with me and really commended me on what I'm trying to do. But I made a challenge that I even shadowed at 2020, our local jail for youth, and I seen every pod I went to was packed full of African American young men, and I didn't go over to the ladies' side, but it was the same thing. So my challenge with them is that I'm going to be able to bring down those numbers. And they say, well, how are you going to be able to do that? Even I'm trying to work with the intervention program that they already have established. We want to work on community court. If there are those minor offenses, we need to be able to judge our youth ourselves as a community. Because a lot of things, if it wasn't us, if it was another people, boys will be boys. And it'd be a slap on the wrist. But with our community, nope, I got to get you in a system. So us as a community, we need to be the ones who judge our youth and tell them, here, we're not here to hate you. We have love for you, but let me show you a different structure. And even if the youth have to go through probation or other things like that, we need to be able to offer them jobs. We need to offer them something to do, because every child that you see hanging in front of the local corner store, he's not selling heroin, he's not selling dope. He just don't have anything to do.
Right. Yeah, and I know that Elder Cornell Anderson is doing a great job and have been for a number of years with that unofficial juvenile court program, but he still need more support there. So, and what is the response, other than those adults you've been networking with? What is the general response of adults, parents of these youth that you're working with, and others in the community, maybe in their church, some of these ministers? What type of response are you getting from the adult community?
Well, I definitely, from the Nation of Islam and the FOI, they have always been a part of my life, and anything I ever did will reach out to me if I reach out to them, or even if I didn't, give me some type of structure to support anything and everything that I always did, because that's a structure of strong brothers that represent and they back up what they say. Outside of the Nation of Islam, it has been a lot of teachers who have said what they would do and backed it up and showed support. A lot of times with the parent participation, I think that's what we see a lot of lack of, and that's like an outcry from teachers to community builders. If we're gonna make this work for the youth, you can't just drop your kids off. And I tell people this all the time, I'm not a daycare center. If you wanna see a change in your youth, you have to make that investment. But that's the reason why I focused on the youth first, because it's funny, I will work with some youth and then I'll get a call out the blue and say, hey, who are you? Or I seen a change in my child. I wanna come check out what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it takes to go through the child to make it a family situation where the family says, you know what, I see a change in my youth and I want to play more of a role. So getting that parent communication or support is really a focus that we need our parents to really be able to do.
Okay, so that's real key and real good, and I know you're making a lot of leeway. Let's talk in detail now about the program coming up on April the 1st from 1 to 4 p.m. Battle of the Minds, old school versus new school debate. Job fair, felony friendly, street life intervention, health, safe environment, safe entertainment, employment, etiquette, education. There's a lot of things that's going to be happening right here at Woodward Career Technical High School at 7005 Reading Road, 7005 Reading Road, right there across from the old Swift and Commerce Mall, across from Allen Temple Church. So keep it real, Family Summit. Let's talk more in detail about what's going on there, who's going to be involved, and so forth.
What the goal is to do, when we kind of went through a couple of different names when naming an event, originally, of course, I wanted to say keep it real, because I want to get a platform where people can really express how they feel. But first I said, well, we're going to have a teen summit. But usually when I do my events, parents will have their kids come and they say, well, you can't go unless you bring your younger brother or sister. So then we called it a youth summit. So then I was thinking, and I kept hearing about child poverty. And then it dawned on me, to me, there is no child poverty. The only way there's child poverty is the parents don't have a job. Right. So then we need to focus on the family structure, because I kept getting so many calls from parents saying, hey, I like what my kids are learning. They're so excited. Can I come to a class and pick up some pointers also? Of course. And really that's what everybody needs across the board in the United States, all over the world. We got to get back to the family structure. That's the only way this is going to work. So what I said, well, let's do a job fair for the adults and for the youth. But when we do the summit, growing up, you would always hear the saying, children are to be seen, not heard. Right. So we flipped it and we said parents are to be seen, not heard on the event. And our goal is to really let the youth really take the lead, and really for the community too, say it's a lot of good kids out here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the only thing the news put out there is the youth that are getting in trouble going to 2020. That's only a select few. Now, it is true, it's packed. Usually they have about 120 kids there on a daily. But if it's 120, how many thousands of kids do we got in Cincinnati that's not getting in trouble? So we need to reflect and support those youth that need the help, but we need to support and rejoice in the kids that's really trying to do something positive also.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I noticed you have a young speaker here that's Manuel Fogarty, running for city council.
Yes,
Tell us more about this guy.
Well, Manuel Fogel, I'm really impressed. He's 19 years old. He's running for city council. I think he really has a story. And for us, I'm only 35, but I don't remember anyone that young running for city council. And that's really what I'm all about. Even from when people knew me at 17, just trying to throw parties, I was always trying to focus on the young people. And I think, and I'm speaking into existence, when he becomes city council, I think he will be able to bring some light from a different perspective. The millennials and the younger are the ones who are going to make a change in what's going on. So I think he really will be able to be one of those people on city council. And I also think too, just with his age alone, he's going to get other young people to have an interest in politics. You know, you hear a lot about, Donald Trump, or when we a lot of people got involved with Obama, we look more towards politics. But I think what young brother here, where they can really just grab out to, is going to get youth interested more into politics.
Okay, and then I know you've been working with Urban League as well. Talk to us about your experience in working with the Urban League and how you see the Cincinnati Urban League here, Regional Urban League, based in Cincinnati here in Avondale. How do you see that organization assisting you in achieving the goals that you have?
I got an invitation from one of the workers there at the Urban League, and she gave me an opportunity to shadow or to volunteer through the Urban League and work with some of their youth. It was a good experience because it gave me a lot of structure on how to come up with some curriculums, but make it educational. It's easy to talk about finances, everything, but to make it educational. So they were working out of a book where you do strength finders, and that really was right exactly what I needed to incorporate. So I thank the Urban League for letting me be part of that their program that they had, like a 3-week program at the University of Cincinnati. And the goal is within the next week to really try to lock in something with them to really partner up with this event, and not just on this event, but future dates. So they had offered me a position in the summertime, also to work along with them. So in the next couple of weeks, we will see how that turns out, how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like some really good things taking place. I'm really excited about the Keep It Real Family Summit and looking at networking. I noticed your slogan that you have on the hot card says, "From the block to the boardroom." Give us more about that. Why did you use that slogan? And I see you have growth and development on here. Why did you use such a slogan?
I use that slogan because all of my life I didn't represent doing things that was positive. The younger generation now, they say we're in a trap, or before we say we come from the projects, or we say I'm on a block. It came to a certain point in my life that was a part of my life. Being an African American man growing up in the neighborhood of Avondale or all the inner city neighborhoods, you want the finances. You can see entrepreneurship going on, but in front of your eyes, you see the people who doing it the legal way. Their stores are shutting down, or they're being bought out, and our community's getting bought up. So you try to take chances to be able to make those type of finances, and that was a part of my life. Or I did that street life. That was a part of my life at the time. But you can go from the block to the boardroom, and I was able to, even as a felon, be able to go to Africa. I went to the Congo, DRC, was formerly known as Zaire, where Muhammad Ali fought at. I was going to stay for just three months. The University of Cincinnati didn't even support my trip of going. I wanted to do study abroad. They were against it. 2 weeks before I went, I signed 2 waivers. They pulled the plug. They asked me, "Are you still going?" I said, "Yes. I'm going to pay for it on my own." But I want the young people to know, I got it from your same neighborhood, your same city. I was able to go to the parliament in Africa and deal with the ministers there. I was able to meet with the United Nations. They had an interest in me. They told me I could use airplanes for free. I also was able to meet with the United States Agriculture and Development, that's called USAID. They were very, very impressed. They say, "You're not the CIA, you're not with any government organization. You really came to a third world country and was able to survive." But I actually stayed for over a year, not for 3 months. I even sat and had debates with the ambassador, people who Barack Obama had appointed or that was already appointed, I was able to have debates with them and speak about what's going on in Africa and even in America. So those are things that who would ever think just a guy who nobody would knows will be able to stand up for what he believes in, even with a criminal past.
So let's tie that international connection together. What are some of the parallels that you saw in your visit in Zaire that you also see here in the streets of Cincinnati?
I think it's a big picture that a lot of people don't see, and that is this is something that's structured for us not to win. In my experience, I've seen it with my own eyes in the community I lived in. When I would go to the area where the ambassadors lived at, it was the United States ambassador's house. It was like 50 different countries representing their countries living in these big mansions. And I would meet with the ministers, and I was meeting with them personally, and I was even seeing government documents where it's put on TV that they're stealing money, or they're the ones, and they really were taking a blame for things that were going on that America supported, and that was going on. Even Patrice Lumumba, I was able to meet his son at Obama's first inauguration, and his father was a very instrumental person in Africa. Nelson Mandela said he was the greatest man to ever walk Africa. Malcolm X said the same thing. All of our leaders spoke of him very highly. And when I met his son and talked to his son, and we would converse some over the phone before me going to Africa, he would tell me true stories. And I actually found a document. There's a true statement. I was at the parliament when we were going to war with Afghanistan. Bush was extracting oil from the Congo DRC. But you never hear stories like that. 90% when you talked about the laptops, the tablets, cell phones, in any device, it's a mineral called coltan. 90% of the world's coltan is found in that part of Africa. I'm not going to talk about coltan. I mean about cotton or cobalt or iron or black wood or diamonds or oil. That's just one mineral, 90%. So just do the math on that. If Bill Gates is the richest man in the world because of technology, if Congo DRC said we're not going to give you any of our minerals, that means what? His company would collapse. Right. So who's really the richest person in the world then? And where's those minerals, where he's getting them from?
Right. Yeah. Who's benefiting
from them? Mm-hmm. So I mean, I've seen it with my own eyes, but too, what we have to do is change what we think about Africa too. Because what I seen with my own eyes, I just went to an event last week, and I always post on Facebook when I'm going to African events. Because when you think of Africa, what you think about? Some dirty water, somebody walking around, don't have any clothes on. You think I'm on this lower level. I be in a room with aristocrats, people who are financially stable that you will walk right past and like, oh look, it's some Africans, not knowing it could be a minister, it could be a daughter of a president, but you would never get that because the way the media portrays Africa as this starving country. Come on, man, just think about it. If all civilization started from Africa, you think everybody's just poor and don't have anything? That really makes no sense. Right. So even American currency was backed by what? By gold. Right. So if Africa got gold in their backyard, then we got some type of problem going on what's with the currency. But a lot of people don't know about how Zaire was colonized by France and by Belgium. Right. So those are things that we have to be educated about. My ultimate goal is to start a charter school eventually, so we can really educate our kids, because that's where it starts at. And we keep teaching our kids about Christopher Columbus and he discovered America, and it was people already there. We gonna be in the state that we in. Yeah. So those are the things that I'm trying to focus and spread some light on.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I read a report this morning that was giving some feedback from some data that was collected, saying that students who study their own history from their own background achieve greater than students who don't. And in specific, in that study, they zeroed in on African American students. Those who were more conscious about African history and African American history here in the United States and abroad were achieved at greater lengths than those who weren't. So there's something to that as well. Know thyself, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, echoed by Minister Farrakhan.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk more. Anything else you want to say about the program coming up on April the 1st at Woodward Career Technical High School, 7005 Reading Road, from 1 to 4 p.m.?
Just really that we still have booths available. If you are a company, corporation, or have employment for a youth or a felony-friendly job for adults, we still have booth space available. It's only $50 for booth. We are a nonprofit and a 501c3. If you'd like to make a donation or be a sponsor of the event, we have sponsorships from $1,000 all the way down to $50. It is a tax deduction, but in order to see some change, you have to sometimes spend some change.
Right.
And so we definitely need that support also.
And you can be reached at 513-696-2267.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then we have that, I know it's coming across the screen, but also the www.iyementors.org. So that's www.iyementors.org. So even if you like to volunteer at the event, get in touch with Mr. Lee and join in on the movement that we are engaged in to improve our community. And we're broadcasting live here at this time, being recorded in Avondale. So Avondale is a central community, and it's a key community. And there will be some development in the years to come. Oftentimes people see new development throughout the city and they think somebody just decided last week to begin to build something. No, these plans are 10, 20 years out. And so we've seen how the Over the Rhyme has been redeveloped, parts of it, first with Main Street, and that Main Street project entertainment district didn't get off as well as they wanted, and they moved right over to Vine Street, and it's a whole new world at least 3-4 blocks down in that area. And I have heard, but I have not been into the new facility there in Coyville, across from the large grocery store. I won't get into commercialism, but there's a new grocery store in the area, and they developed new housing over there. So as you said, we must take greater charge and begin looking at development and redevelopment of our communities and being more aggressive, because if not, if you don't take care of yourself, somebody else will. So if you don't put your hands in your pocket, somebody will indeed put their hands in your pocket. So that's the way I like to look at it. I know we're coming down towards the closing of our program, and we want to be mindful of our achievement levels and our educational endeavors. We want to make sure that our parents are engaging with their students on a daily and nightly basis, to be able to debrief your child, to find out what it is your child is learning, and to make sure that your child is not only competing, but submitting the work that they have to complete. There's nothing like having a child complete work and not turn it in. You know, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I would be teaching and look across the room and see a child turn a page in their binder toward a clean sheet of paper, and then I notice a piece of work that should have been turned in 2-3 days ago, and say, hey, let me have that. I walk right up on them. Oh, I forgot to turn it in, and it's done correctly, and it's done fully. So that is something that parents need to be aware of. Okay, in our last 20 minutes, we just want to explore some of the issues in our communities today. So is any other key issue that you'd like to talk about at this time?
I think one of the key issues, and we've been seeing this all across the board in America, is dealing with the police. I think something has to change on both ends. I just was able to volunteer for the Adrian Bronner fight, and I had a situation where I had to break up a disorderly person at the event. But the sergeant that was at Xavier University, I really had to commend him because it got to a point where the guy he was out of control. I understood why he was out of control. We had been briefed to let the ambassadors handle it. I was an ambassador. The police were told how they were supposed to handle it to back us up. Orders were followed. I'm not here to point fingers at anyone, but I know how the situation got escalated because I was the one there to diffuse that particular situation. And out of 7,000 people, we only had three situations that happened. So it was an excellent turnout. So Cincinnati Police Department, they did their piece. Punching for Peace, Rags for Riches Promotions. You couldn't ask for better promoters and the ambassadors that volunteered. Everyone, it was a collective piece. But from that incident, I seen how very quickly something could escalate, which I knew it could anyway because I've been doing promotions for a long time myself. But it has to be a collective effort. When we dealing with young men that feel some type of way about the police anyway because what they're seeing on television, what they're seeing in the community, and what they're facing, the police are going to have a new outlook and be willing to participate because things were about to go a different way. But if it wasn't for the person who was running the show, which was the Xavier sergeant, things wouldn't have went the right way because they were ready at that point to take the guy, take him down, take him to jail. And that wasn't what we were there for. Mm-hmm. But because this officer was the one who has a different way of thinking, and he was a Caucasian officer, and he was. And we even had a situation where a white guy got disorderly. But and he said it himself, yesterday we had a banquet meeting, he said, it plays a part with color. And it does. You can't get around the fact, even go back to education. If a white professor, not saying he can't do the job, I'm not saying that, but we relate to what we relate to. Look in the jungle. You don't see an elephant running with a rhinoceros. You don't. I'm just being real. You attract to what you attract to. So the youth, especially African American men, is like you against me anyway. And so when dealing with our community, the police, regardless if you white, black, Chinese, or whoever, the only way this is going to work if they're going to make it work and be willing to say, you know what, I'm not here to take everybody to jail. That strong hand, it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah, more community policing. Yeah, I'm looking to get a couple officers in on the program to talk more about this, and that just what you just said made me think about after I have them come in and take the seat, then maybe we can pull together something and have a 3-4 person round table and have some open, a broad dialogue on these issues of development and with the youth. And so that is key. One issue I know we have about 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes on a couple issues that we have before us. There's some information that comes out of the National Education Association concerning black education issues, black issues in education. It says the black community faces educational issues similar to other minority groups, including the need for adequate funding for schools serving minority and disadvantaged students, as well as other issues with a special impact on the community. I'll just read the first bullet point under that. Student achievement gaps needs to be aggressively addressed. For example, the percentage of blacks age 25 and older with a high school diploma or more was 72% in 2000 census compared to 85.5% for whites. In addition, the percent for blacks with bachelor's degrees or more was 14% compared to 27% of whites. So one thing I'm going to be looking at is looking at the data at when the next report comes out to see has there been any closing of the gap. Because when you have a body of people and then you have a smaller body of people, say if we look at the human anatomy, the body, you got the masses as the physical body, oops, I hit my mic again, and then the head as that smaller group that's primarily providing the leadership, then we got the neck. So unless we close that gap, that's like you were saying in the terms of police community relations, it was that Xavier officer that helped provide the neck, that helped close the gap, to keep the body from deteriorating, the situation, in other words, escalating to deteriorating and causing further problems. And a lot of that, I know, we all know, is a result of basic stereotypes. And as I tell many of the students, that they have to be careful that they don't play out the stereotypes, because you can reinforce stereotypes.
That's true.
And in this society, I'm finding in this day and time, young people are quick to follow trends. I mean, they jump on trends in masses quicker than I have seen in previous years. You know, every generation have their trends, from fashion to music and so forth. You know, I can recall our trend was the afros, the bell bottoms, the flares, jeans, and now they got the skinny pants and the leggings, and the guys wearing girl clothes and girls wearing guy clothes, and I mean, and they so quick, and all you have to do to get it going is to throw somebody up on stage with a mic with a couple CDs out, and all of a sudden you see them, with the orange hair looking like Bart Simpson, and everything. So they're easily influenced, and I think what I've seen you do in working with the youth is impacting to turn that around. I see the youth come in and they're not wearing their pants around their knees. They're up at the waist where they belong. There's a place and time for everything. You can dress casual. You have your casual wear, your sports wear, your casual wear, your business casual, and your business wear. And so I think our young people, a large number of them, don't know that. They know only one, and that's the sportswear. And so, we have to train them. I know in working with 8th graders, moving out of the 8th grade program into the high school building, that was a learning situation for them. And then when 6th graders were the top of the school to go to 7th grade, and they're moving on, it was a learning situation for them. And I know within the Cincinnati Public Schools, we have the MORE initiative, in which we teach students how to tie ties. And I find over the last 5 years of working with students at the 4th through 8th grade level, each year it's only been a couple guys that know how to tie a tie, and a couple years nobody knew. But I had a group this past year I started off the year with, when I was the advisor. I'm no longer advising right now, but I look forward to getting another group in the years to come. But they learn how to tie a tie like that. And I mean, I had 6 guys that learned in one setting how to tie a tie. And I will always get ties donated from men in the neighborhood, in the building, and a lot of the teachers, female teachers and staff members in the building would ask their husbands, and their husbands would donate. So the guys would take a tie home to practice, and they learned. And I would teach them how to tie the bow ties and show them the difference between the clip-ons, the ones you tie yourself, the snap-on straps. So to really, really give them some training in that, so they'll be aware of how they should be and what a wardrobe should look like. Everybody don't know they should have a black suit in their wardrobe, and they should have a straight tie if they wear straight ties, bow ties if they wear bow ties, white shirts. Some color shirts will do too, but at least a white shirt, because at one time you might need just a straight black and white. And pair of black shoes, hard shoes, not just black Air Jordans. And to be able to have your leisure shoes and your hard shoes, and to be able to come to a meeting addressed appropriately. Because, you know, even if you're going for a laborer's job, you want to walk into the job interview dressed a bit formally. You don't want to wear the khaki suit, even if you had, what they call it, the work clothes, Dickies. If you had an outfit, you just come off a job, going to another job that might be doing the same type of work, but a higher pay, higher responsibility, greater health care. You don't want to walk in there with that farmer uniform, even though you're going to be wearing a similar one to the next job. So you want to go present yourself in that manner. And so that's very important. So we're talking about closing the gap. And there are a lot of issues around how that should be done. And I know that with this new administration in government and the controversy around the Department of Education and the head of that department today and what this administration is looking to do. You mentioned charter schools, and they're looking to expand charter schools, and charter schools have developed out. I know you attended, as you mentioned, Harmony Community School, which is a Cincinnati charter school, which Mr. Nordyke, who was the founder and president at the time, he was pretty avant-garde, cutting-edge educator. I spoke with him several times. That's why we selected to enroll our son Janelle in there, and who was your classmate. And his ideas around entrepreneurship were pretty solid. And now I'm seeing that more high schools around the country, even a few programs in Cincinnati Public, are now beginning to focus on entrepreneurship. And I know at the time that you did your presentation at Miami University, Jim Klingman was instrumental in setting up a entrepreneurship school here in the Cincinnati School District. However, you know, internal things didn't allow it to continue. But the whole movement toward teaching for doing for self. That's basically what entrepreneurship says.
Right.
Do something for self, something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had taught for many years, do for self. Because you respect it based on what you produce. You know, no self-sustaining society wants their society soiled by a society that is not taking care of themselves. And we find a lot of the problems are happening that way. Now, we say, well, there are extenuating circumstances and conditions that put our community in the condition where we come out with the type of results. But, you know, being a strong people and people who are very strong in the community like yourself, doing a great work like yourself, and I commend you every time I look at you. It just thrills me, and I'm so happy that you're out here doing that work, and whatever I can do, yeah, I'm here for you to help in getting it done. So I think in the last 5 minutes we have left, if there's anything else you had on your mind that you would like to let the people know, we'd like to hear from you.
Just tomorrow we'll be at City Council at 1 o'clock. It's a brother, like anything you do, when you're doing something positive, you're going to have the enemies going to be after you, especially if you're an African, strong American brother. Tomorrow we're going to be supporting closing the health gap. Our brother Tillery, the news has put out a lot of false information, so we're going to be at City Hall supporting our brother Tillery, and he's been doing a lot of great work. Then when you do great work, that the enemy's going to be after you. So we're going to be at City Hall tomorrow at 1 o'clock to support our brother and to continue this movement that we got going on in Cincinnati.
Okay, and yes, I'm a member of Closing the Health Gap and Cincinnati Black Agenda, and attend many of the workshops, and I have been benefiting from the knowledge I've gained and the network that I've came across and attended. And I invite everyone to come out to any of the programs that Cincinnati Black Agenda puts on, or Closing the Health Gap puts on, and we know the big program that will be taking place down at Washington Park this year. So we have to look out for that. More information will be coming about that. Washington Park is new and improved and has been redesigned over the past 5 years, and a lot of things are happening throughout the summer down there at Washington Park here in the city. So we do want to look out for that. And keep your eyes open for Festival 513 coming this year and to Cincinnati, and Keep your eyes and ears open, and I'll keep you abreast with further details on Festival 513. There will be a lot of things happening in the summer in the city. There's always a lot of things happening in the summer in the city, and we want to be conscious of those and share that information along with the rest of the community. And so I do have another little reading that I want to do as we close out when As a Man Thinketh. Okay, now we talk about getting things done and how we engage and indulge ourselves in this work. And there are laws. We several weeks ago, I talked about law of achievement and circumstances, and I want to connect what James Allen says here. Law, not confusion, is the dominating principle in the universe. Justice, not injustice, is the soul and substance of life. And righteousness, not corruption, is the molding and moving force in the spiritual government of the world. This being so, man has but to right himself to find that the universe is right, and during the process of putting himself right, he will find that as he alerts his thoughts toward things and other people will alter towards him. So in other words, we have to do for self, clean ourselves up in terms of clean up our thinking level, understand the dynamics under which we live. And on that, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, the greater understanding we have of what we learn in class, the greater we will be our service to the community. First things must be first. Get knowledge, then get the experience of giving to others. And with that said, I thought that was the perfect saying that I could get from the Teachings 2.0 Twitter sayings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that fits exactly what you've been doing in your work.
Thank you.
And I like to commend you once again. Okay, so let me read that one again. The greater understanding, and this is my dedication to Mr. Lee, the greater understanding we have of what we learn in class, the greater will be our service to the community. First thing must be first. Get the knowledge, then get experience of giving to others. So as Minister Farrakhan says there in his book, the Teachings 2.0 Twitter sayings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Mr. Lee has exhibited, and I'd like to invite you to come out on April the 1st at Woodward High School on 7005 Reading Road from 1 to 4 p.m. to Keep It Real Family Summit. And with that said, I'd like to say to you, it's been a plum-pleasing pleasure to have had you here. And out of all of my interviews, I think this has been one of my best interviews. I'm just so thrilled. It even sparked me to add a few questions that I hadn't previously planned to add, just to hear your experience and what you've said and see the growth and the very positive and needed young man that you are. So with that, I'd like to say to you, as I close, as I open by saying the words of peace, in the Arabic language, I say, Assalamu alaikum, and that simply means peace be unto you. So until next time that we're together, I like to say, keep it real. Remember, April the 1st, Woodward High School. Keep it real. This has been Education Today is Nation Building Time, and you have just met and sat with one of our outstanding builders. Thank you, and good night.